All right, in this lesson, we're going to look at essay structure and writing an introduction. Essay structure and writing an introduction. We talked about body paragraph in the previous lesson. Now we're going to focus on the introduction. The activities that we are going to look at are in the understanding the question true and false. So we'll understand the question, and again, I will do a true and false activity for you to really nail down this skill of understanding the question. What are the things that are being asked of you? Generating ideas, we will again look at generating ideas, planning the structure of your essay, and then writing the introduction and writing the essay. Let's get into this. All right, first of all, let's start with a true and false activity, understanding the question. So read this question very carefully. I'm going to read it out, and I want you to read the options from A to J and select true and false if that's what you need to do, right? So let's read this question out together. More and more colleges and universities are offering courses via distance learning. Distance learning has many benefits, but there are also drawbacks, and not every learner will be suited to this mode of study. To what extent do you agree or disagree? Give reasons for your answer and include any relevant examples from your own knowledge and experience. Write at least 250 words, right? Read the essay question and decide if the following statements are true or false. For the essay question above, you should discuss reasons why distance learning can be good for learners, and so on. Read all of the options from A to J. Pause this video here, do this exercise on your own, true and false, and come up with the answers. And when you come back, we will review the answers. All right, let's look at the answers here together. So A, it says discuss reasons why distance learning can be good for learners. Yes, that's true. Let's read the prompt again. More and more colleges and universities are offering courses via distance learning, right? This is the modern trend. Distance learning has many benefits, right? But there are also drawbacks. There are drawbacks, there are benefits, and not every learner will be suited for this mode of study. It's not for everyone. That's what it's saying in the other. Do you agree or disagree? So you have to discuss the reasons why distance learning can be good for learners. Yes, that's one. That's true. Discuss reasons why distance learning is good for colleges and universities. It's not talking about colleges and universities. It's talking about learners, okay? So it's for learners is what you have to think about. So that's false. Discuss the history of distance learning. You don't really have to talk about history. It doesn't ask you to talk about history. That's false. Discuss the problems associated with distance learning. That is true. You have to talk about the problems as well as you have to talk about the benefits, right? Discuss reasons why distance learning is not suitable for some learners. That's true. It does talk about that. And just give a detailed account of the type of courses that can be followed by distance learning. It doesn't talk about the type of courses. So that is wrong or false. Discuss reasons why distance learning is bad for colleges and universities. Again, it's not talking about is it bad or good for the colleges or universities. It's talking about the learner. So that's false. Discuss the kind of learner that would be suited for distance learning. Yes, what kind of, it says in the end, it's not suited for everyone. That's true. You have to talk about what kind of learner is suited for, and come to a logical conclusion about the value of distance learning in your view. That is true. You have to agree or disagree and say what you would like to learn by distance if you had time. It does not talk about that. That is false. So if you got all of these correct, that means you have a good grip of understanding the topic, understanding the question, and you will be able to generate a good response to it. All right, let's keep moving. Let's look at our second activity. In this activity, we're planning the structure. We will understand what are the structure. I'll give you two of them, right? So sometimes you can use a structure on the left, on the right. What I want you to look at is basically complete two possible essay outlines. I'm going to give you the essay outlines with notes from the box below. So on the left-hand side, in our first outline, you can start with the introduction. Then you will write disadvantages for unsuitable learners. Then what would you like write again? And then in the end, obviously, it should be conclusion, but think about it, what will come next, right? On the right-hand side, there is another way you can write the same essay. What would you write in the start? What would you, and the second one is given to you, advantages and disadvantages of the distance learning. Then what would you write in your second, paragraph number 3, body number 2, and what would you write in the end? Okay, so do this activity on your own, pause this video, take the sentences from the box, put it in the right order, and when you come back, we'll review the answers. All right, let's look at the answers. So the first outline, you can write introduction first, and disadvantages for unsuitable learners, and the advantages for suitable learners, and then come up with a conclusion, okay? But you have to give your opinion in introduction and in conclusion. Don't remember your opinion. You do have to either agree or disagree, okay? That will come in introduction and that will come in the conclusion, okay? All right, now in talking about the second outline, you would start with introduction as always. You can write advantages and disadvantages in one paragraph, right, of distance learning. Then you can write suitable and unsuitable learners, because that's one of the requirements of the question. You can't neglect that, so you have to write that. So you can use one paragraph for suitable and unsuitable learners for distance learning, and then you can write your conclusion. Okay, sounds good. So these are two ways that you can write your essay for this particular prompt. All right, now let's talk about, we talked about learning how to write an introduction, right? So let's just talk about introduction now. An introduction sets out for the reader, the examiner is, in this case, the reader is your examiner who will be reading your essay, right? The examiner, in the case of IELTS, what the essay is going to be about, right? So if I'm your examiner, I'm reading your essay, I should be able to understand what you're going to be writing about, okay? If I can understand from your introduction what your essay is going to be about, that means it's going to be a really bad essay and I wouldn't be able to understand it, okay? So you have to set the tone on the top, at the top, clear, that you people can understand what you're trying to say. It should clearly refer back to the question, but not simply copy the whole phrases from it. So it should paraphrase, you should paraphrase the question, but you should not copy the whole phrases from it, okay? And I'll show you an example where, people try to copy phrases from the question. Do not do that because you will lose marks. From reading the introduction, the reader, the examiner, should have a good understanding of what they are about to read and the writer's position. So I should be able to understand, or as an examiner, whoever is examiner, should be able to understand what you're going to write about and what is your position. Are you either you're agreeing, disagreeing, what is your opinion? So it should be clearly stated in the introduction, okay? So let's do some activities around the introduction. Here, I've given you an example of the question. So the example of the question here is more and more. On the right-hand side, you can see the example of the question, more and more colleges and universities. We're using the same prompt here. More and more colleges and universities are offering courses via distance learning. Distance learning has many benefits, but there are also drawbacks, and not every learner will be suited to this mode of study. To what extent do you agree or disagree? Okay, we spent some time already to understand, what this prompt is about. So let's go on the left-hand side and understand what I'm going to give you two introductions, right? So introduction number 1 and introduction number 2, you're going to read it and you're going to tell me which one is a better introduction. But let's look at activity number 1 here. The first activity says, read through the introduction below, considering the following questions. You have to think about, has the writer paraphrased the topic? Is the writer's position clear, and what is it? Is it easy to tell how the rest of the essay will be structured from just reading the introduction? And is there any unnecessary extra information? Try to read this this introduction. So you've got the introduction number 1, more and more colleges and universities are offering, and so on. Read this introduction, and then you have another introduction. Read through the introduction below and consider the questions A to D again for this introduction, the possibility of study at further and so on. So read these two introductions and answer question from A to D. Pause the video here, do this exercise on your own. And when you come back, we'll review the answers. All right, let's look at the answers here. So in the introduction number 1, let's look at the first question. Has the writer paraphrased the topic? He hasn't paraphrased the topic. The opening sentence has completely copied the question, completely copied from the question. For example, more and more colleges and universities are offering distance learning. He's just completely copied it. So you don't want to be doing that, okay? B, is the writer's position clear? What is it? No, it's not clear. You could perhaps infer their opinion is against distance learning from the details offered of friends. Let's just read it out quickly and then we'll see, if it's clear or not. More and more colleges and universities are offering distance learning. In the past, this type of learning was sometimes called a correspondence course. The advent of the internet as a learning medium has helped to create distance learning opportunities worldwide. Learners need to have a computer and an internet connection in order to follow these courses. However, it is really possible to learn from home. Are such courses suitable for all learners? I know several people who have tried this type of course and they all gave up after a few weeks. I will examine these questions below, firstly by considering the advantages and disadvantages of learning in this mode, and then by looking at the kind of learner that suits distance learning. But first, here's a brief distance learning. So I can't really understand straight away what their opinion is here, right? So no, you can't really understand. The position is not really clear. And no, so look at the response B. No, you could perhaps infer their opinion is against distance learning from the details offered of friends' experience, but it's not clear. Okay. C, question number C is it easy to tell how the rest of the essay will be structured? Yes, it's easy because they've written, the writer outlines how they will respond to the question, but seems to include an extra paragraph of unnecessary information on the history of the distance learning. So if they're going to be writing about the history of distance learning, I think that's not needed, and that is unnecessary information. You shouldn't be writing unnecessary information. So they do write here that I will examine these questions below first by considering the advantages and disadvantages of learning in this mode, and then by looking at the kind of learner that suits distance learning. But first, here's, okay. So that's what I understand by reading that. Let's review question number D. Is there any unnecessary extra information? Yes, absolutely yes. There's quite a lot of unnecessary information here. What are these? Let's read in the red. In the past, this type of learning was sometimes called a correspondence course. I know several people who have tried this type of course and they all gave up after a few weeks. This is all of these sentences are unnecessary, and you don't want to be writing that in an introduction or anywhere else. All right, let's evaluate introduction 2. All right. So let's read the introduction 2 and then we'll evaluate it. So the possibility of studying at further and higher education through distance learning has increased throughout the recent years. Despite a few issues, including inequality of access for some learners, this way of study has revolutionized access to education and created more opportunities and benefits for a wider range of learners. Okay, let's evaluate these questions. A, has the writer paraphrased the topic? Yes, the first sentence is a paraphrase of the topic. The possibility of studying at further and higher education through distance learning has increased throughout the recent years. Okay, he's paraphrasing the first sentence. Question number 2, is the writer's position clear? What is it? Yes, the writer's position is positive. He's positive about distance learning. Yes, the introduction ends with a positive statement. They argue for the distance learning they argue for, not against. And he says in this way of study has revolutionized access to education and created more opportunity and benefits for a wider range of learners. C, is it easy to tell how the rest of the essay will be structured? Yes. From the second sentence, you can see that the writer is likely to have a paragraph describing the disadvantages, including inequality of access, followed by a positive, perhaps longer paragraph describing the advantages, including opportunities for different types of learners. So he says, despite few issues, including inequality of access for some learners, this way of study has revolutionized access for education, right? So he may talk about disadvantages, he may talk about advantages, and this is indicating that he's going to be writing about those things. D, is there any unnecessary extra information? No, a short, concise introduction, which includes no unnecessary information. All right, let's keep moving. Now this is your homework. I want you to take the opportunity to really reflect on the skills that you have learned in this lesson. Work through the steps covered today to write your essay. So I'm going to give you as a homework, and if you want me to review your essay, please write it in a Q&A. Reach out to me through messages, and I will provide feedback on your response if you wanted to send me and wanted to get feedback on your response. But look at this response. So analyze the question, brainstorm possible ideas. First of all, it's very important, analyze the question, really understand what it needs to be done, right? Brainstorm possible ideas, what are you going to write? And then plan which ideas to write about and structure your paragraph. Paragraph 1, I'm going to write advantages, disadvantages, what am I going to do? And then write an introduction which paraphrases the topic, establishes your position, and makes it clear to the reader what the rest of the essay will be about, right? So let's read this prompt quickly, and I will then leave it to you to write an essay about it. Many cities these days have traffic flow problems causing congestion and pollution. One solution is to build fast ring roads on the outskirts of a city, taking traffic away from the center. While this is helpful in some ways, it also causes new problems. To what extent do you agree or disagree? Give reasons for your response or answer, and include any relevant examples from your own knowledge or experience. Write at least 250 words. All right, I wish you all the best, and I will see you in the next lecture.